Hi, my name is Carrie Quaison, and I will be presenting Cultural Diversity in Session. My fictional character is an African American male who is suffering from PTSD from the Iraqi War. Thank you. In this presentation, I will discuss the client's demographics, the reason for the referral, how I plan to establish a working relationship and the interventions, and how I plan to practice cultural competence. Jacob Jones is an African American male who is suffering from PTSD from the Iraqi War. He is 40 years old, unemployed, and lives in Rapid City. He is the father of a 5-year-old daughter and is a self-referral. Jacob presents concerns regarding managing his PTSD and custody concerns. His estranged girlfriend and mother of his daughter is concerned about Jacob caring for their daughter due to the chemical dependency, paranoia, isolation, and lack of basic needs related to PTSD. Jacob is requesting counseling and resource allocation as he wants to continue seeing his daughter. To connect with Jacob, I would like to start by doing research prior to even meeting him. I would like to take his demographics, such as his military background, his African American culture, PTSD, and chemical dependency, and look through that, understand it better from a cultural competence stance. I would also like to look through his medical chart so I understand his biological and psychological history. When Jacob finally comes into the meeting, I would start to look at his psychosocial do a psychosocial assessment. To begin with, I would do an open discussion, getting his goals, just better understanding him. I would make sure to pinpoint paranoia triggers so he has a better feel for the office and adjust the office or setting to accommodate that. Then I would go through and start with some diagnostic interviews and questionnaires. I would also like to visit with him regarding the unmet needs that he has, and so I can start researching the resources in our community. To formulate an intervention, I would like to use decision making and shared goal setting with Jacob. What this means is shared decision making is just me educating Jacob on the different interventions that I feel would be appropriate and letting him make his own decisions on how to proceed to reach his own goals. Regarding PTSD and military history, we would use a trauma-focused therapy, which means that he would relive or visit with me regarding the trauma that led up to his PTSD. And in case of re-victimization, we would use a more non-trauma focused therapy. I would also like to address his chemical dependency and his paranoia as to allow him to continue seeing his daughter as that is a more emergent need. Regarding the focus of his African American identity, we would use strengths perspective, possibly use an eco map so we could kind of see where his strengths lie and where his weaknesses lie, and use those strengths to overcome his weaknesses. Regarding his unemployment and lack of basic needs, also in relation to the custody battle with his daughter, I would make him a list of resources. I would assist him with applications as needed and help him out with things such as transportation services. I would also try to find him needs that are applicable online or on a one-on-one setting as to not upset his PTSD. To assist Jacob with navigation of local resources, I have compiled a list of rural and urban resources. For rural resources, I would suggest to Jacob to use family, friends, to use his spirituality, maybe church or different groups within his spirituality. I would encourage him to connect with old military friends, maybe some new military friends, to explore healthy hobbies, and to maybe research meditation or visualization. That could help with his PTSD and his paranoia, to visualize doing something before he does it. And I also found a cool resource that is a PTSD app. This helps you navigate your symptoms and gives you interventions on the spot as needed, as it's right there on your phone. For urban resources, I would suggest AA meetings, VA support groups, different legal assistantships, housing. He may qualify for a VA loan or different housing programs. There's food shelves, public transportation, and also parenting classes. And a lot of those you can do online, and that would not trigger his PTSD either. Addressing stereotypes and my own biases is a necessary step in becoming a culturally competent practitioner. In working with Jacob, I would like to address my biases regarding African Americans. Sometimes they may come off as angry or culturally sensitive. In my defense, I would use color blindness as to just pretend that our differences do not matter. As Jacob being a male, sometimes I have a preconceived thought that he feels he is superior or dominant. As a veteran, I may feel that he is closed or intimidating. And working with someone with PTSD, before meeting them and getting to know them, I may premeditate the stereotype of him being unpredictable, paranoid, or having chemical dependency. To counteract my stereotypes I discussed in the previous slide, I would use research. In Jacob's case, I would research things such as PTSD, military history, even custody laws, and chemical dependency in African American culture. I would also use self-reflection. My preferred method is journaling after I meet with somebody, or maybe say something that I regretted. I write it down, I discuss it with myself through journaling. Exposure is another good way to overcome stereotypes. That can be done immersing yourself into areas that you usually don't, that are different culture than your own, or watching even movies, maybe speakers or conferences that relate specifically to another culture. And I also like to consult with maybe my supervisor, co-workers, even instructors or advisors. In summary of the presentation, Jacob Jones, an African American Marine Corps veteran, presented the VA Medical Clinic with concerns regarding his PTSD and custody issues. He was concerned with getting the help and resources needed to ensure that he would still get visitation rights with his 5-year-old daughter. Through cultural competence and background work, I would strive to connect with the client and make him feel comfortable. To form the intervention, I would educate Jacob on the options of interventions and collaborate to form a shared decision-making approach. I would provide cultural resource allocation in rural and urban settings. Through continuous research, self-reflection, exposure, and consultation, I would strive to exhibit cultural competence in order to make Jacob feel safe and welcome through these tough life situations. And that concludes my presentation of cultural diversity in session. Thank you.